What's up, everybody? This past week was a big one for comic fans as we got the launch of DC KO, the finale of Season 2 of Peacemaker, and several big announcements that dropped at New York Comic Con, including the fact that DC is going to create pocket universes within the KO event so that DC heroes can train for the tournament in crossover fights with characters like Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat, Red Sonja, Vampirella, Annabelle the doll from the Conjuring universe, which might be one of the craziest ones, Samantha the bear, and of course, freaking Homelander from The Boys. Because like Scott Snyder said himself, who doesn't want to see Homelander fight Superman? But no matter how you feel about that, it is a massive reveal for comics in general. And speaking of DC KO, we just got the first KO tie-in issue this week with Titans 28, where the Titans are trying to lead the immediate evacuation of Earth prior to Darkseid's invasion. It's definitely not a must-read for the broader event, but it does have the return of a Titans character, and some of Darkseid's enforcers show up to spoil the evacuation efforts in the end. So while it's not necessary to understand the bigger story, it's definitely worth a read. Anyway, last week we also got the next chapter in the Absolute Batman title with issue 13, which I thought was going to be where we'd finally get the missing pieces for Absolute Catwoman's origin. And while that turned out not to be the case, we at least found out why when Scott Snyder revealed at New York Comic Con that he is writing a 6-issue Absolute Catwoman miniseries with creator Che Grayson. And that miniseries, which is set to drop in early 2026, will likely bring everything together for her origin story and her relationship with Bruce. Regardless, issue 13 of Absolute Batman is amazing, and it gives us another big character introduction. So we're gonna lay it all out, and I gotta tell you, it looks like Absolute Batman is starting to break bad under the influence of the venom Arc M infused into his bloodstream. Not to mention, it was revealed during KO #1 that Absolute Batman, Absolute Superman, and Absolute Wonder Woman will be fighting in the KO tournament as Darkseid's champions. So things are really starting to ramp up. But instead of talking about it, let's jump into the issue and see where it takes us. All right, so the book, which is part 5 of the Abomination arc, opens with yet another flashback of Bruce Wayne and Selina Kyle. This time we find them embracing on an L train while returning home after making a pretty bold offer to Carmine Falcone on his golf course. Selina tells Bruce, "I didn't know you had that in you, Wayne." Bruce then repeats something she said to him in issue 12 as he says, "If the rules aren't fair, right, Kyle?" But Selina realizes that Bruce isn't sure about what they just did, so she grabs his face and says, "Look at me. This is how Waylon wins, how we all win." From here we return to the present and the scene in the Batcave where things left off at the end of issue 12, with Selina now fully dressed as Absolute Catwoman, having just broken into the Batcave and choked out Alfred. A seemingly angry Bruce then asks Selina, "Why are you here?" To which she responds, "Look at us, our ears match. I'm here because your mother called me." But Bruce isn't buying and he responds, "I'll ask one more time." But Selina doubles down and says, "She did actually. But come on, Bruce, you've been missing for months. I was worried, all right? I came to help." Or Bruce snaps back, "I don't need your help." She then picks up a part of the tail/rope that she used to choke out Alfred and says, "Clearly, I mean, you've got such a superstar team already." Now at this point, Alfred starts to come through and said, "I've read about you, the Catwoman. What you pulled in Penang, no loyalty." But Catwoman's not having it and she starts choking him out yet again with this tail/rope of hers. And while it's not exactly clear how this rope tail of hers works, it is clear that her suit and the technology she's using is the same that we saw from Black Mask early in this series. Anyway, while choking Alfred out, she says, "All right, look, if I'm not wanted, what's it gonna be?" She then lets go of Alfred again and he says, "Don't trust her, kid." To which Bruce responds, "Enough, Pennyworth. I don't need the advice. She's leaving right now." However, this immediately cuts to a very romantic scene between Bruce and Selina, and needless to say, she did not leave. But this very much keeps Bruce and Selina's relationship very similar to what we're used to in the main DC continuity, with their on-again, off-again romance. Anyway, as the sun starts to come up and they're both laying there, Selina gets her first look at what Arc M did to Bruce, including the nice little Arc M branding that's similar to Bane's mask at the base of his neck. Selina then works up the courage and says, "Bruce, what did they do to you?" To which Bruce responds, "Is that really what you want to talk about, C?" She replies, "No," but Bruce replies with questions of his own saying, "So your helmet, it looks a lot like the gear Black Mask uses." And turnabout's fair play, so Selina replies, "Is that really what you want to talk about, Bruce?" He also says no and instead says, "You want to go on a date?" Followed by a full page of Batman and Catwoman flying through the city. Now, for those of you who read Absolute Batman issue 12 or saw our episode on the issue, you know that at the end of the issue, after Batman had learned what Bane had done to his friends, he had a mysterious video call with the Red Hood gang and called off whatever it is they were planning together. Now fast forward and we see Batman and Catwoman landing on the rooftop of a building at a pier, and Batman is explaining to Catwoman they're called the Red Hood. They're an outlaw collective, hacking, disruption. We had a loose alliance. They then jump down to the boardwalk below and Catwoman asks, "And this is their cool hangout spot? So where are they?" And just as she finishes asking that question, the Red Hood gang appears behind them saying, "You're not welcome," followed by Batman saying, "We're not leaving until we speak with your leader." The Red Hood then say, "Have it your way," and they start to attack both Batman and Catwoman, with Catwoman flying through the air saying, "I like this date." She then pulls the automatic weapon she's been carrying around on her back and loads her tail into it like a magazine, followed by unloading on the entire Red Hood gang, seemingly taking them all out, which of course freaks Batman out and he says, "What are you doing? They're just kids." Followed by a couple of panels where Selina says, "You know why you hate kids. Take it easy. It's just a cat nap." As we see that she's hit all of the Red Hood members with tranquilizer darts, knocking them unconscious. All except one, that is, who is about to fire on them with an RPG from the top of the Ferris wheel. Batman catches it just in time and throws Selina to the side while screaming, "Look out!" He then goes full rage mode and hulks out, slamming his body into the base of the Ferris wheel, obliterating it, which of course knocks the Ferris wheel and the shooter into the water. Selina then runs up to Bruce, who has the Arkham Venom running through his veins, and asks, "What the heck was that?" But Bruce, who is clearly one step closer to the Venom taking over, screams, "Get away from me, now." At this point, the rest of the Red Hood gang appears out of nowhere saying, "Look at him, he's one of them." Then another says, "Boss was right, they are making monsters." And Selina, who quickly realizes they are surrounded, says, "Bruce, listen to my voice. I'm right here. You need to calm down, okay? Get it under control." But just as the Red Hood gang is about to attack at full force, Bruce says, "Wait, I told you to stand down because the truth is they almost broke me in a place called Arkham where they do make monsters. Abominations like a man called Bane. But they didn't break me. And now I'm gonna destroy him. And not just him, his bosses, Arkham. I'm gonna burn it all to the ground. But I need your help." Now the Red Hood gang members don't believe him, and one says, "You're the Abomination man, get him." But at that moment, the leader finally speaks up and says, "Hold it." And as she lowers her hood, she says, "I was never sure about you. I'm still not. But if you're really talking about burning down Arkham, now you're speaking my language. Name's Harley Quinn, leader of the Red Hood. So what's the plan?" So as we flip the page, we are finally introduced to the Absolute Universe version of Harley Quinn, and she looks completely different. Yes, the Absolute version of every character we've seen so far looks completely different from what we're used to, but this is like a total departure, man. And the fact that she's the leader of a resistance movement is a very interesting spin. However, on the next page, we are returned to Arkham, where we see Bane is having a surgical procedure done and a maximum infusion of the Arkham Venom pumped into his body, followed by the doctor walking in saying, "Good news, we've managed to push your system even further. As of this moment, you're officially at maximum infusion. We never imagined a human body could reach these levels. If I may say so, it's a real inspiration working with you, Bane. You're a dang unicorn." But remember, in the Absolute Universe, Bane isn't just strong, he's a genius. And he responds by saying, "A wild ass, good for work, whose meat is too bitter to eat." That's from the first ever description of a unicorn, Doctor. 5th century BC. He then calmly follows this by saying, "Soon you'll have my replacement, and he'll have his new Bane. Then I'll finally go home." And this is where we realize the driving factors for what Bane is doing to Batman. We already knew that he wanted Batman to take his place, but now we get confirmation that it's because he wants to go home. And he can't do so until he fulfills the task of replacing himself and giving the Joker a new weapon. The Doctor then asks, "Forgive me for asking, but you really believe he'll let you go?" To which Bane responds, "He has to. I've given him everything. Any moment now, Batman will give in and my work will be over." But they're interrupted by one of the other scientists in the room who says, "Doctor, you're going to want to see this," as we see Batman on his computer screen. We are then taken to a montage of screens all across Gotham as Batman has hijacked the news feeds. And he's done so to relay a message to the entire city saying, "People of Gotham, our city is under attack, not by criminals or outlaws, but by its own leaders. Leaders who have sold Gotham out to line their own pockets. They've sold our safety, our freedom. There's nothing they won't sell. They've even sold the ground beneath our feet, where right now they're growing actual monsters, horrors too terrible to imagine. I tried to show you with Black Mask, but I made the mistake of relying on the networks. Not anymore. This time, I'll show you myself, because I'm gonna drag one of these monsters out into the light for all of you to see. And then I'm gonna beat him. I'm talking about you, Bane. I know you're listening. Tomorrow, midnight, the old Veterans Arena. You and me, alone. You win, I'll go back to Arkham and become whatever you want. But you won't win. And you, people of Gotham, you get to watch. And just in case any of you are wondering who I am, I'm Batman." So as you can clearly see, Batman has decided to use the Arkham Venom that's flowing through his veins, and he is slowly becoming the monster, or at the very least giving into its impulses. But as we flip the page, we are taken back to the past and Gotham Arena, where we are finally given the details of the deal Bruce made with Falcone. And it starts with Waylon Jones saying, all the way to the 7th? To which Bruce replies, the end of the 7th way. You last right up to the bell. That's much farther than anyone has you going. Every single site has you down by the 2nd, maybe the 3rd. This way, you go out with dignity and make enough cash to open the gym. You win. But as we see the two of them sitting together in the stands, Waylon is clearly upset by this. And he tells Bruce, do you know why I hired you to train me, Bruce? I mean, skill-wise, you're mediocre at best. I hired you because you're my best friend. Guys like Bibbo, Falcone, they're ruining our city. So no, I don't want to cut a deal with them. I want to beat them here in this ring with someone in my corner who believes in me, man. Believes in all of it and what we've been through. You, me, the odds we've overcome. I thought you were that person, but I guess I was wrong. So you, Bruce Wayne, are fired. Bruce tries to speak, but Waylon is not interested and he shoves Bruce while saying no. And I'm going past the 7th. I'm going to win the whole thing. Now go, get out of here. I have a fight to get ready for. So like I said earlier, while we're not getting the full origin story for Absolute Catwoman in this issue, or what fell apart between her and Bruce between these flashbacks and the present, this situation with Waylon Jones and his fight against Bibbo certainly plants the seeds to explain both. But on the next page, we return back to the present and we once again find ourselves in the Batcave, where Selina is telling Bruce there's not much around the vet to use to your advantage. And Bruce replies, no, it's isolated, run down, but that's the idea. Just me and him, last man standing. However, Selina, who is getting more and more concerned by the minute, says, I get it. I just need you to promise me one thing. Then Selina tells him, don't use the venom, Bruce. It's what they want. It's not worth it. I've seen what it does to people. But Bruce, who doesn't even look up from his computer, replies, what it does to people? When I used it, I could see every move those Red Hood kids were going to make. I was 10 steps ahead. I just have to learn to control it. But venom is the only way I can win. Catwoman responds, it's not the only way. You have people who can help. I can help. But Bruce pauses before telling her, you haven't seen him, what he can do. Followed by Catwoman putting her hand on his chest and saying, but I have. And they're my friends too, Bruce. Even when I'm not here. I want to take this Bane down as badly as you do, but not like this. But despite her pleading, Batman doesn't budge, and he just repeats her words back to her yet again, saying, if the rules aren't fair, stop playing by them. Sound familiar? She tells him, maybe I was wrong, to which he replies, easy to say now. Look at your helmet, your gear. Don't tell me you got where you are by playing clean. To which Selina replies, no, I didn't, but you're better than this. You always were. And this is where things seemingly really start to take a turn for Absolute Batman as he replies, not anymore. I'm gonna freaking wreck him, and I'm using the venom. If you can't handle it, then maybe you should go again. This completely stuns Selina, and after a pause, she says, maybe I should. Take care of yourself, Wayne. Followed by Alfred walking up and past Selina as he tells her, don't let the door hit you. We then see that Alfred is carrying a cooler and he hands it to Batman while saying, I'd ask if you're all right, but I already know the answer. Fine. To which Batman replies, I am fine. Now this is another thing that's really starting to get interesting, and that is the behavior of Alfred in this series. Initially, Snyder did a great job of selling him as this unexpected mentor to Bruce, but as the issues have gone on, he has become increasingly suspicious with some of the things he has encouraged in Bruce. And that's the most evident right here as he tells Bruce, good. See, this is the part I was telling you about, kid. The part you have to push through, the tunnel. You stop, you even slow down, you'll get ground up. So let go of what you were, that man, soft, weak. Bury him deep in the mud and become what you need to be, what you were meant to be, and rise as the monster. Because this is war and there are no rules except winning. And as he's saying all of this, we see that the cooler he handed Bruce was full of meat, which Batman left in the sewers to attract Killer Croc. And with a promise for the final showdown in the next issue, this issue comes to an end. So that does it for Absolute Batman issue 13, and you can see that we are definitely closing in on a major turn one way or another for Bruce. And it seems very possible that he will lose himself to the Venom at least for a while, and that the choices he makes when it comes to Bane and Arkham could be what leads to his role in KO as one of Darkseid's horsemen. And we know he'll be there alongside Absolute Superman, who is currently being forced through a similar situation with Ra's al Ghul. Although I do think Selina is going to play a major role in saving Bruce in the end, almost how Natasha Romanoff / Black Widow could calm Bruce Banner in Avengers Age of Ultron. But the big thing that is now really lingering in my mind is how Alfred has increasingly been trying to push Bruce over the edge. And considering we still haven't been told who sent him to Gotham in the first place, it's become a real possibility that he is a sleeper agent for either the Joker, Ra's al Ghul, or possibly even Darkseid himself. I guess we'll find out soon enough, but if I were a betting man, I'd put my money on him working for Darkseid, either with or without his knowledge. But what do you guys think about this issue and where things are heading for Absolute Batman? Does he break and become the Joker's new weapon, or does this only end with Darkseid? Drop your take down in the comments, and we will see you next time when we talk all things comics.